I'd like to call this meeting to order. Adoption of agendas. Councillor Decker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Wilson, that Council adopt the agendas as published on May 16, 2019, and any and all revisions published May 21st, 2019.
All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Mayor's report. On Friday, May 17th, Councillor Sentence and myself attended the ribbon-cutting ceremony for Gil Gordon Park and Playground in the Rolling Meadows development in Thorold South. 3 generations of Gordons were on hand to share in the official opening of Gil Gordon Park, named in honor of developer Glenn Gordon's father. And I can tell you, it was a great turnout, and there were a lot of kids playing, a lot of people walking on the trail, so it just shows you what a great investment it is in our city. Residents have until midnight tonight to complete the online survey regarding regional governance. The link is available on the City of Thorold website or on ontario.ca/regional government. If you haven't done that survey, you got one job tonight. When you go home, make sure you do it. It ends at midnight tonight. Okay, adoption of minutes. General committee meeting. Minutes of May 1st, 2019. Councillor Longo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Sentence, that the General Committee meeting minutes of May 1st, 2019 be hereby adopted.
Any errors or omissions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. General Committee meeting minutes of May 7th, 2019. Councillor Kenny.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Longo, that the General Committee meeting minutes of May 7th be hereby adopted.
Any errors or omissions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Council and General Committee meeting minutes of May 7th, 2019. Councillor Henley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Sentence, that the regular Council and General Committee meetings of May 7th, 2019 be hereby adopted.
Any errors or omissions? Seeing none, I call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. General Committee meeting minutes of May 10th, 2019. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Longo, the General Committee meeting minutes of May 10th, 2019 be hereby adopted.
Any errors or omissions? Seeing none, I call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. There's no any declarations of interest? Seeing none, I move on. There's no public meetings pursuant to the Planning Act. There's no civic recognition. Under presentations, I'd like to welcome Dan Giancola. Give the Boost to PTSD. Read the gala on October 5th, 2019. Dan, please come to the podium. And welcome to Thorold City Council.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be home as always, Mr. Mayor and Council. I'm always honored to be here, and I'm always honored to be among all you beautiful peeps. Tonight I'm really excited because it seems every time that I am here, it's always it's always for a special cause. And this is my 4th gala that I'm doing. It's called Give the Boot to PTSD, Refuse to Lose. The last 3 years, myself and my amazing committee have raised over $80,000. Nobody gets paid, just people volunteering to try to do something special. The first year, I believe, Mr. Mayor, you've been an amazing supporter for me through cystinosis for the young girl. Second one is for Parkinson's, the Steve Ludzik Foundation. We did amazing there, and last year we did it for mental health. I swore that when I did this, I was never going to repeat a gala, meaning I wouldn't go back and repeat what I've done. I've done it for the main cause I did it was because of what I went through a few years ago, saving a woman jumping from a bridge in Niagara Falls. I almost lost my life on that day. I myself got PTSD through that, and I suffer through it to today. So go figure. I go 10 years playing professional football and do something like that, and yeah, fun things happen. So Phil is an amazing man, Phil Sheldon, and his wife Tanya, and Refuse to Lose is very huge for them. that we're raising money for them to take people who suffer, first responders, who suffer with PTSD. The goal is to raise at least $20,000 this year. It costs about $1,000 to put a person through treatment for 1 week, and our goal is to do $20,000. I'm very proud to say, although my committee, my beautiful committee is here tonight, also the president of Club Casabignano, where we are having our gala, is here tonight. It is truly just amazing to grab all these people together and rally around such an amazing cause. So the reason why I'm here tonight is I would like to extend an invitation to City Council, to you, Mr. Mayor. It is October the 5th at Club Casabignano, and I really would love for you guys to be there. It really, like I said, is an amazing cause. A table of 8 is $600. Singles is, so that comes to $75 a person, and $80 for singles. So I wanted to, again, I just wanted to extend that out to you guys, and I really hope you guys can make it on that night. It is for truly a special cause. If you're looking at the papers and all that other fun stuff that's happening, and I don't mean that in a way of fun stuff, the horrible things that are happening, i.e. the Burgoyne Bridge. And it's horrible. And we need to do something. And I'm a firm believer of, and I'm not here to be no politician, that's for sure. And I don't mean that in a disrespectful way. I'm not here to give my political views about whether they should be putting a net up or not. I believe in my heart that we should be going to the root of the problem and sending these people away to get fixed. If they're not going to jump off that bridge, they're going to jump off another one. So my goal is to help this gentleman to make as much money as we can, and I would love to have your guys' support. I really do. So with that said, I like, Mr. Mayor, I have it here. I'm going to come up in 1 second. But also at the same time, I want to say one thing. In all my years of playing professional football, it was always an honor to represent this city. I was always from St. Catharines, Niagara Falls, Welland, Grimsby, because nobody knew Thorold. And I always wore that flag on my back, very proud, especially when I had the opportunity to win the Grey Cup in 2004. And so I would really hope that you would receive this just in a simple way of me saying thank you for all the mayors that have stepped forward, but also you, Mr. Mayor. You've always been a huge supporter of mine over all the years, and I can't tell you what it means to me. So I got a plaque for you. I mean, at the end of the day, you can put it wherever you like. But I'd like to give this to you. I also would like to give you a T-shirt. Also, I gave all your council some hats. And again, so thank you for your time. And I don't know if we're supposed to do questions or anything, but thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. Y'all good?
I will tell you that Mike and I will be there. I challenge all the council and staff to support this great event. And I'll tell you, on October 2nd, 37 years ago, but that's October 5th, I got married at
And you know what? And this month is 19 years married for me and my wife, so it's really working out really good. So thank you all so much. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Dan.
Thank you guys.
Thank you. God bless.
Okay, we'll move on now to motions for support. City of Thorold, Councillor DeRose, Reactive Transportation Advisory Committee.
Moved through you, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Longo. Whereas the Active Transportation Advisory Committee mandate is to promote walking and cycling as healthy and environmentally friendly ways to travel. And whereas one requirement to maintain a bicycle-friendly community is to educate by offering programs that promote safe, comfort, and convenience for cyclists. And whereas the Active Transportation Advisory Committee previously held a bike rodeo at the Battle of Beaver Dams Park, but unfortunately attendance was low and retaining qualified individuals to volunteer was a challenge. And whereas Heart Niagara offers a program where they go into schools and conduct a bike rodeo for students. And whereas due to the municipal election and changes of committee membership, the Active Transportation Advisory Committee did not submit a community grant request for 2019. Now therefore be it resolved that Thorold City Council be requested to approve $1,500 from the community grants budget so that each student in grade 6 at every elementary school in Thorold is able to participate in the Heart Niagara Bike Rodeo program, should they so wish. Thank you.
Any speakers to the motion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Statement by councilors. Councilor Kenny.
Yes, I'd just like to say that, thank our Manager of Community Service, Curtis Dre, and Mike Williamson, and Don Dolby, and all the unionized workers at the cemetery. I was there on Mother's Day, and even with all the rain we've had, the place looked top shelf. And I'd just like to, I know they hear it when it's not good, so this year was great shape. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Councilor Kenny, and it was great to see it in such good shape out there. Awesome. Awesome job. Notices of motion. Any notices of motion? Seeing none, will resolve into general committee. Call to order. Any declarations of interest in general committee? Seeing none, we have two delegations. Up first, I'd like to welcome Doug Hamilton, Chairman of the 2021 Canada Games Host Society, Director of Public Works Community Services Report, PWCS 2019-36. Welcome, Doug.
Welcome. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. I want to thank you first for the opportunity to make this brief presentation in support of the recommendations in the staff report before you. My name is Doug Hamilton. I'm chair of the 2021 Canada Games Host Society, and I'm joined by a number of our board members and other supporters who are part of our efforts now to organize the games. And too many to introduce, but I'd like to thank them all for coming tonight. I wanted to start by explaining really the opportunity that a Canada Games poses or affords us for infrastructure legacy. And I want to start by identifying some of the other games that have achieved that legacy and what that opportunity is for us in Niagara. Canada Games are a tremendous catalyst for infrastructure development. They started in 1967. They're hosted every 2 years and will be the 28th Canada Games. If you go to Thunder Bay, which hosted the Canada Games in 1981, still the center focal point of its community recreation is the Canada Games Center. 40 years later, it's still the focal point, and it's something that we aim to achieve as part of our games. It's an opportunity to leverage funding from government and community partners. The facilities used for the games not only provide an important part for the games, but they provide an important legacy for the community afterwards. We've been, and we'll talk about this, we've been planning our facilities for the games, not only to provide that great and enhanced benefit for the games, but to continue afterwards. The 2019 Canada Games in Red Deer just finished 6 weeks ago. Community of 100,000 people, $250 million of infrastructure development with assistance from both the federal and provincial governments. So an important opportunity for Red Deer that will see benefit for them for years to come. The other thing that's important to recognize from a Canada Games is this is a one-time opportunity for Niagara. The Canada Games, as I mentioned, are hosted every 2 years. They go on a rotation across the country, so they go from province and territory to the next province and territory. Ontario will see the next Canada Games come to it in 25 years. The intent of the Canada Games is to have those games hosted in different communities so that those communities see the benefits of the games, and so we won't see another Canada Games in Niagara. next time they're in Ontario, they'll go to Ottawa or KW or Sudbury or somebody else that's unsuccessfully bid against us for these Canada Games. Wanted to briefly tell you about a little bit about our Games infrastructure plan. It calls for improvements to sport facilities across Niagara, to baseball fields and softball fields, new pool in Lincoln. But one of the things that we did as part of our bid is commit to prepare a comprehensive business plan that best supports the development of two key legacy facilities. One's a legacy facility that we refer to as Canada Games Park, just across the street. The other is the Henley Rowing Centre in St. Catharines. Our Games infrastructure plan has widespread support. It's got a number of supporters, obviously, in the development, but even recently, as part of our funding commitments, you may have seen that we've been out obtaining those funding commitments. We had unanimous support from Brock University. We had unanimous support from St. Catharines. I wanted to thank one of the St. Catharines counselors here tonight who's here to show his support as well. Thank you, Sal, for coming. But we've also had very strong support from Niagara Region last week. And it's truly inspiring when we go to all the councillors and the councils are offering the kind of commitment that is important for this community, because we're doing this as a team effort. The Games have never been hosted in a region before. When we put the bid together, we called ourselves Team Niagara, and we are indeed walking the walk, and it's very gratifying to see. The funding commitments that we're asking from you tonight are set out in the staff report, and it's an important step to move forward. You move to the next slide. I don't want to spend too much time on this, but the planned infrastructure will enable and enhance the Games. Again, a tremendous opportunity to showcase Niagara, significant economic benefit for Niagara. Much of that benefit comes from the infrastructure that's planned for Games. Most of that infrastructure is planned to be in Thorold. So Thorold will see much of the economic benefit, which we're projecting to be $400 million of economic benefit from hosting the Games. Support for over 2,100 jobs, and that's the organization and the hosting of the Games themselves. That doesn't include the economic benefit of the facilities afterwards and the opportunities to host and do things with those facilities afterwards. The sport and recreation facilities have also been strategically planned with a lot of community stakeholders to provide that critical legacy after the Games that I mentioned. These are planned, and Canada Games Park across the street is planned to be a let me keep going, a multi-use, multi-generation facility with something for everyone. It's going to be a facility that's intended to provide health and wellness benefits. Can you help me with that?
I'm sorry.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a facility in particular that's been designed with a number of different sports and programs in mind. One of the programs that we're particularly excited about are the parasport programs that would be hosted at Canada Games Park. Those are programs and facilities that have had the benefit of input from a number of parasport athletes. Two I'd like to introduce you to tonight from the Brock Niagara Penguins. Jim and Loretta Davis have been involved with us in our organization for the last 3 years to help us plan the parasport facilities at Canada Games Park. Jim and Loretta are star bocce, star basketball players, very accomplished parasport athletes, very successful, and they're from Thorold. And so they're very enthusiastic about creating facilities for their hometown. There's a number of youth development opportunities, and importantly, sport hosting and tourism, which is a focus for Niagara going forward, and these facilities will continue to provide those opportunities. Over the last 2 years, we've been working very hard to prepare a comprehensive business plan. We've prepared detailed designs. We've developed a construction plan and cost estimates. We've planned the ongoing operational framework, and I want to thank your staff for their assistance in this work. It's been great to work with your staff. And last thing we've been doing is identifying and requesting additional government funding. Part of the reason we're here tonight is to obtain the commitment we're hoping from you folks so that we can move forward with other requests for funding. Wanted to move on just briefly and show you a couple of the facilities. I mentioned that this was across the street. So this is a Canada Games Park. You'll see on the right-hand side, that's Sir Isaac Brock Way. The left-hand side is Merrittville Highway, so this is quite literally across the street. This is, again, a community facility. This is the Sport and Ability Center that would be part of Canada Games Park. Would have a large quad gym, 2 ice pads that are available for both ice and lacrosse. And then behind it, as you'll see, we have a track and field, parking, and then as you move out, we've got beach volleyball and a cycling pavilion that's all part of that Canada Games Park facility. Wanted to stop there and see if you had any questions at this point in time before we do any additional wrap-up. Thank you.
Have the overview, you know, the interior, are you gonna, yes. Continue, go ahead.
Okay. So this is, again, a depiction from, this is really a site plan of the operation. Bottom right-hand corner is the first view we saw, which is, again, the corner of Merrittville and Sir Isaac Brock Way. Opens into the 2 ice pads, one with 1,200 seats, the other with 200 seats, one with more hosting capacity, obviously. Both configured in such a way with enough dressing rooms and both planned so that they can also host box lacrosse and a number of other sports. Then there's got a quad gym on the first floor of the Sport and Ability Center with a number of planned uses. It's really best described as a Swiss Army knife in terms of its use. It's been designed so that it can host a number of different community programs, a number of different sports, parasports. With up a level, and although you can't see it here, a hung track, a 200-meter indoor track, which will be available both for running in the winter as well as people walking. So there's a number of different facilities. You'll see the track and field behind it towards the top. The parking is to the left, and then the beach volleyball is to the left of that. The cycling pavilion is up to the top right. In a place that is closest, obviously, to the escarpment and off into the Bruce Trail and a number of different trails that will be available for cyclists. We'll be hosting a number of events during the games. We'll be hosting wrestling. We'll be hosting beach volleyball. We'll be hosting athletics. We'll be hosting lacrosse, and we'll be hosting mountain biking from this facility during the games. So I want to thank you at that point in time and see if there are any remaining questions for me.
Are there any questions? I have, okay, go ahead, Councillor Sentence.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you. The left side of the field, that was softball as well?
So
Are we hosting softball there as well?
we're not hosting softball there, but those will be 2 softball fields that Brock's got some softball fields currently configured over there. They want to keep those for intramural softball. They would be available for community use as well.
Okay. And you mentioned earlier that we'll be doing some infrastructure in Thorold at different parks that will be fixed up.
There is a softball field in Thorold that we're planning to doing some upgrades to as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Go ahead, Councillor Longo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the presenter. Thank you, Mr. Hamilton, for the presentation. Third time I've listened to it, City of St. Catharines and at the region, and I've had a few opportunities to discuss this with you. I just want to ask a few questions regarding the financial aspect of this, if you could maybe clarify some things. I want to know how you arrived at the proportionate share that Thorold would pay for this facility, being $7 million, and I just want to know, again, how you arrived at that figure for us.
So the figure, the way it came, so the total cost of the infrastructure for the games is $98.8 million. Under the federal provincial infrastructure funding program, the split formula under that program is 40% federal, 33% provincial, 27% local. In that 27% local, there were discussions between St. Catharines, Thorold, Brock, the region during the bid itself. But really the partners came up with those numbers themselves in order to best apportion between to make up that 27%.
Okay, so thanks for clarifying that. So these weren't your numbers. These were basically derived at by Thorold staff and staff from the other ownership entities.
Correct.
Okay. So at the end, when this project's complete, who will have ownership of the facility?
So the current discussion, we, the Canada Games Host Society, we organize the games, we would run and manage these facilities during the games, and then we disappear. The importance of these facilities is that they remain as a community legacy, and therefore they should be run by those organizations that are best able to manage them as a community legacy. And so we've been encouraging Brock, City of St. Catharines, Thorold, and the Niagara region to come together as a consortium, and there's interest from all four, including a meeting earlier today where there was further discussions about the operational framework. But the four to come together as a consortium to manage the facilities going forward as a community facility.
Okay. Now, I don't know if it's too early to answer this, but would that ownership consortium be equal partners if there were 4 owners or 3 owners? Or is that up to the individuals that would take ownership?
That's very much up to the individuals that take ownership.
Back to ownership. And I'm only going to ask the question, I'll get into this when the report comes up later, but was Brock University Student Union ever approached to ask for, to be an owner in this facility? Considering Brock University Student Union is the same size as the city of Thorold, and they will use the facility probably more than the city of Thorold, would they be an owner, or could they be an owner?
So that's something that's for Brock. So the contribution from Brock and how they funded was their decision. I don't believe they approached the students or considered approaching the students for their contribution. Their contribution primarily, in large measure, consists of the land as well as a financial contribution, but this land has been valued at somewhere north of $6 million, and they're giving up ownership of that by way of a long-term nominal lease. So that's an important contribution that wouldn't be made, obviously, through the student union.
Okay. And my final question through you, Mr. Mayor. There's reference in the report we have tonight to another report done by PwC, I believe.
Yes, sir.
And PwC is going to give us an indication on how to best operate this facility?
Well, so what PwC has done, and they've done this through a couple different exercises. So they've done an operational pro forma for the facility. So they've looked at all the different users of the facility and the costs of the facility. This has been done by a gentleman at PwC by the name of Ron Badalka, and this is his expertise. He does this across North America for a number of different community and rec facilities. So he's looked at the operational pro forma. He's shared that information with us over the weekend. Staff met from Brock, City of St. Catharines, the region, and Thorold this morning to go through that PwC operational pro forma. So that's now available to staff. What we're now asking, I think, PwC to help us with is to put together that operational framework that you mentioned a moment ago, to talk about what issues need to be discussed between the parties, and I think it's not PwC will help us facilitate that process.
And I guess my final question to you, then this report from PwC, does it anticipate an operational surplus or deficit for this facility? Have they gotten into that far into it?
They have, yeah. It's actually quite complex. It depends on a number of different assumptions, and it goes out over a number of different year periods, and it depends in part too on whether you finance your capital or capital contributions over time too.
Okay. So does the report state it's going to be an operating deficit most likely?
Most of these facilities do have an operating deficit. Having said that, this facility has been designed in a way to generate significant revenue so that it minimizes that operating deficit. But most of these facilities at the end of the day do generate some sort of operational deficit.
Okay. Thank you very much. And again, I appreciate your commitment to this project. I know how hard you've worked and how much it'll mean to the region. But again, from the City of Thorold standpoint, just have to ask some questions to make sure we're well protected here. Thank you.
Thank you.
A couple of questions that maybe you can touch on that I know were in the big presentation we've seen. 3 things. Number 1, can you just touch on the JumpStart playground? That's not part of the complex, but will be part of the total package.
So during our discussions over the last year, JumpStart, one of its programs is children's accessible playgrounds, shaped in the triangle and the red color, and they've done a number of those across the country now. JumpStart, as you know, is affiliated with Canadian Tire. Canadian Tire's got a very strong home presence in Niagara, and so they're quite keen on further discussions with us about putting a playground at this facility. We've tentatively identified a location. You'll see the circular area just above the beach volleyball where we could put a playground there that JumpStart would contribute.
Okay, and my next question, if you can elaborate on the Brock Center, Fitness Center.
Sure.
That's currently down on Lockhart and will be part of this facility, as well as what you have planned on the second floor as far as commercial space.
So if you look at the Sport and Ability Center, this middle area is 2 floors. On the first floor, it'll be primarily occupied by the Brock Niagara Center for Health and Wellness. Brock Niagara Center for Health and Wellness is a facility that Brock operates down on Lockhart Street. It's a facility that offers special programs for residents with special needs. Right now, they do 4 programs, I believe. Program for adults with spinal cord injuries, program for amputees, program for older adults, seniors, and I'm not sure I remember the 4th. Cardiac, sorry. They're interested in expanding that. They're working out of an old school down there. It's not an ideal location. It's not as well situated to Brock. Brock runs it through a number of their students as well as some of their professors. Great opportunity for them to partner with the community. They would like to come into this facility. They'd like to pay their share of the Brock Niagara Center for Health and Wellness in this facility. That's why I mentioned to the councillor about the opportunities for revenue generation. This would be one of those. And they'd like to expand their programs so that they could run additional programs for Parkinson's, those people suffering from Parkinson's, people suffering from strokes. On the second floor, one of the facilities, and we met again with them today, is the Canadian Sport Institute of Ontario. Canadian Sport Institute of Ontario is part of the Canadian Sport Network, which is, they deliver developmental and high performance sport programs across Canada. In Ontario, we have this one organization. They service all of the national team and developing athletes in Ontario. What it is, it's an opportunity for all the sports to use a central facility so that sports don't have to have their own sports psychologist, their own sport nutritionist. The CSIO, the Institute of Ontario, has all of those staff people. They'd very much like to create a regional center in Niagara that would provide services for a number of our high-performing sports, our para-sports, as well as developing athletes in Niagara. They, again, are going to pay their full freight. And then in the other offices there are a number of other sport organizations that want to be involved in a facility like this. An example is the Coaching Association of Ontario that represents 10,000 coaches. They have been talking to us about having a regional office here to serve their coaching needs in this area as well as beyond this, as well as a number of other Ontario and national team organizations. So this would be very much a center for sport development and high-performance sport.
Any further questions, Councillor Thorold?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Doug, great job, especially when we were in our little groups and you went over everything. And I know you've worked tirelessly for this. I do have a couple concerns raised from Thorold taxpayers that I've talked to recently. And I just don't understand this, and maybe if it's on staff that made this decision. Our population is 14% of St. Catharines. They've got 133,000, we've got 18,002 roughly. I'm just wondering why we're paying 70% of what they're paying, and then they're getting 6.9 million legacy at Henley. So I just need that explained for the sake of taxpayers that called me on the weekend. I had about 8 people that got a hold of me, and thank you.
Sure. So let me start with the Henley. The Henley Training Center, which we haven't talked about tonight, you're right that we're talking about some improvement, or a new Henley Training Center there that would be about $7 million. It's not a St. Catharines facility. It wouldn't be owned or managed by St. Catharines, so that's not something that they're contributing $6 or $7 million towards. That's the fundraising that'll be done, additional fundraising that'll be done by that is the rowing community, not so much the City of St. Catharines. With respect to the cost sharing that's been discussed between City of St. Catharines and Thorold, I think in my mind, from what I understand, the primary splitting or arrangement for that really comes from the expected use of the facility. And remembering that, yes, St. Catharines is much bigger than Thorold, but it has additional ice pads and it has additional gyms. And so when St. Catharines is looking at its use of this facility, it's not assuming that all of St. Catharines is going to use this facility. It's assuming that a certain proportion. In fact, this facility won't serve, for example, the ice pads won't serve the needs of St. Catharines. So when it was discussed, and your staff will answer some of these questions better than me because they were part of the discussion, but when it was discussed, the amount of ice, for example, that's used in the facility is about equal between Thorold and St. Catharines, and therefore a cost sharing that's closer to equal because the portion of their community that's going to use this facility is much less than their whole community.
And just another reiterate a question that Councilor Longo asked you. Do you have any figures of the previous Canada Summer Games, what their deficits are, roughly, just a rough ballpark?
I do. They've had 28 Canada Games, and to my knowledge, not one has had a deficit. Most generate, or many have generated a surplus that they leave for a legacy fund afterwards to run their legacy facilities.
Right. But I mean
like
after
this.
the fact, when you're gone.
When I'm gone?
Yeah. Like I'm saying, once you were gone, or whoever was doing it then.
When we leave, when the host society wraps up?
Right.
Yeah, most of the, so none of the Canada Games host societies, to my knowledge, have operated games at a deficit. Many of them have had a surplus, and that's the surplus that they leave as a legacy fund for their legacy projects as part of their community.
And I also have to comment on Councilor Longo's point that Brock has more residents or students than Thorold, and I'm sure they'll be getting much more use out of it. And so I'm a little disappointed that, I know they've got the property, the $6 million you said for it, well, we've got it down as $4 million, and the $500,000 they're putting in, but it seems, I just feel that we're kind of, I don't want to be negative, because I do want this, but I kind of feel like we're getting shortchanged a bit as far as taxpayers.
So I think, Councillor, I think the way to look at this from my perspective is there's two cost contributions. There's the capital cost contribution, and then there's the operating cost and how that program's going to work over the next 40 or 50 years. In the scheme of things, the much more significant arrangement is the operating pro forma, not the capital pro forma. Those differences in the capital contributions can be accounted for very easily in the operating pro forma by who's contributing how much ice time you get, what the rates are, who is responsible for a number of different things. And so from my perspective, the capital numbers they're roughly in the same ballpark. It's the operating pro forma that is the one that really allows you to regularize, to bring the details to all of this and to account for the differences in use.
Thank you, Doug.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess just three questions, or a couple. Hard dollars, City of St. Catharines. How much of the $10 million is going towards the facility that will be built in Thorold? Is all $10 million going there?
No.
3.1 million?
Sorry?
How much is going, like approximately 3.1 million? I think most people's misinterpretation here is that St. Catharines is putting $10 million towards that facility.
No. So
how much are they?
So we haven't broken it down that way. So we don't look at this as being a single facility. For us, this is a project that consists of a number of facilities. So we look at a contribution towards the 98.8. St. Catharines is, as are you, you're seeing a facility improvement to one of your softball fields. St. Catharines is also seeing facility improvements to a couple other facilities. They got a new basketball court that will go to the Meridian Center. There's some improvements to their baseball field in Meriton. And then there are these improvements, or a new facility that's happening at Henley. We didn't allocate among that 10 million between all of those in that way.
To me, myself, I feel I don't want to get into the comments, I will later, but that's on Thorold's end. My hard numbers are, secondly, how much is Brock University contributing financially?
So Brock is contributing two things. They're contributing $4 million by way of a commitment, a financial commitment, and then the land, which which we didn't do a detailed valuation, but is around the $6.5 million range. So a little bit north of $10 million. The other thing that Brock's contributing, and this is important to understand, and I mentioned the difference between the capital and the operating. So Brock's coming with a couple significant uses of that facility that are going to generate operational revenue. The Brock Niagara Center for Health and Wellness, some use they want exclusive use of some dressing rooms. So there are some uses that Brock's going to make of the facility that they're going to pay for, and that'll be part of the operating pro forma.
No questions, but I would like to have some comments, so I have more comments than questions.
Any more questions? Go ahead, Councilor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you. Just a couple questions. We have a large AAA congregation here. Do you know if minor hockey, questions came up to me, is going to be subsidized? Like the user groups that use the ice after will be, or maybe it's through you, Curtis, will, at this facility, will minor hockey be subsidized the way it is at the existing arena? Thank you.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So, again, this is all part of the operating after the fact that we still have to negotiate out, but the concept is that the facility gets full rental rate for any users. It would be up to the individual council of each municipality to subsidize the user groups if they wish.
Okay, thank you.
Which is similar to what we do.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, Councilor Thorold.
One last thing, Doug. I'm just curious. Not to put down hockey, but we've got 500 soccer players in Thorold, 265 to 300. Mr. Rapone could probably correct me. I'm just wondering why their soccer's not included in the summer games. Is there a reason for that, or?
So soccer is included in the summer games.
Oh, okay.
And it's played on turf field.
Right.
And so we've got some turf fields at Young's and in Niagara Falls, and so that's, as well as St. Catharines. So we're playing soccer on existing turf fields.
So they don't want to put a turf field in Thorold?
So again, so that's a choice. This isn't the facility. We don't need it for the games.
Right.
And the intent for the games is to have the middle field in the track and field complex to be a grass field so that you can throw javelin and discus and other things that happen on a grass field. If at some point in time the consortium, including you, want to turn that into a turf field, that would be up to you in the future.
Thank you.
Any further questions, Councilor Wilson?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. Just a question to you. In your experience, do you typically get involved in the negotiation with the operating costs afterwards?
So I did well, the last games I was involved in was the Pan Am Games in Toronto, and I played a similar role during the bid and then stayed on the organizing committee through the games and was involved in negotiating as well the operating agreement for the facilities, the key legacy facilities for that, yes.
Okay. And so in your experience, if we were to have more ice time or equal ice time, would the operating costs generally be the same? Or even, like, for example, if we had shared ice time with St. Catharines, for example, and Thorold, would the operating costs of the facility generally be shared between the two?
Yes, yeah, for that part of the facility. But this is, so the discussion is a little bit more complicated than that because it's not just the ice time. The ice time's important here. But it's a revenue generator, and so it's really up to you whether you want to charge full rates for some organizations and not, because that'll depreciate obviously the value of the revenue. But there are other facilities here that are important as well, with the track and field, the gym, all of those, as well as the internal office space. And those are all opportunities to try to figure out what role you want to play in this, and so that's why. The recommendations here tonight are of course conditional upon an acceptable operating agreement negotiated later. This is just step one. There's another step to come, and in many respects what I'm suggesting is it's the more detailed step, the more tailored step for your needs.
Okay, any further questions? Seeing none, I want to thank you, Doug, and we may need you back because I'm going to move the report. Can I get a mover to move the report forward. Councillor Henley.
So move the report forward, Mr. Mayor.
So we'll have a discussion now on PWS 2019-36, and I'll turn that over to our Director of Public Works and Community Services, Jeff Holman.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. The staff recommendation is, number one, that council approve in principle a commitment to the Canada Summer Games Host Society and other capital operating partners to pursue the establishment of the Canada Games facility. Number two, that council commit an expenditure of $5 million to the new facility and an additional $2 million towards the required servicing infrastructure for a maximum of $7 million. For its share of the capital costs, subject to the following three preconditions. A, that funding commitments are confirmed by upper levels of government and other partners to fully fund the capital costs of the Games. And B, partnership commitments are confirmed with the City of St. Catharines, Niagara Region, Brock University, and the Canada Summer Games Host Society. And C, an operating model and partnership agreement for the new facility be prepared for the consideration and approval by Thorold City Council.
Speakers to the report. Hey, I got to move ahead, Councillor Hanley. Councillor Hanley moved the report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Let it be known, I'm not against the facility. I'm against the funding model. And I wish to explain it that's why I asked the questions I did to you, Doug, and I've been doing a lot of research. I've gone through every newspaper article I can back to 2017. I've checked out Brock University hosting rates, what the residents pay. So to give you an overall view, $10 million, the City of St. Catharines, I'll start there. It's towards the infrastructure plan for the Canada Games, not $10 million specifically for the facility. What I can conjure from that is their commitment will be $3.1 million. My numbers, I'm looking at fairness for all. If I look at it when you say a partnership or consortium, everybody shares the same responsibility, everybody shares the same cost. The City of Thorold, $7 million contribution equates to $388.88 per resident at 18,000 residents. The City of St. Catharines, my calculations give it $3.1 million, equates to $23.84 at 130,000 residents. And Brock University contributing $500,000 equates at 18,000 students to $27.77 per student. $3 million for lodging? No way. $3.5 million? I've done my own calculations. As Councillor Longo said earlier, why aren't the Brock students investing in this? They're going to be the ones that are using it the most. And sure, they did give us the land, but regardless of whatever happens on that land, we're not going to get any tax dollars because institutions don't pay taxes. So regardless what they do, whether they build that facility there or build a research center or whatever, at the end of the day, we actually do not recoup any type of taxes. We're only going to recoup our water and sewer charges, which we're going to pay $2 million to put them in there. And the benefit that we get from water and sewer charges is very minimum to the city. As councillors, a new funding model, I would believe. I look at it, there's going to be 3,600 athletes. And Brock University put the hosting at $3.5 million. A room fee for a student at Brock University is $6,940 at the bottom end for a double and $8,600 at the high end for a townhouse. It equates to $19.27 per day for the room that they're renting. For an athlete, at 3,600 athletes, if we just charge them $1 million for the housing over 14 days, it equates to $19.84 per day per athlete. Brock University saying that the rooms are worth $3.5 million are inflating their prices by 300% from what they charge their students. Just like they did on the gas prices this long weekend, inflate the prices. At the high end at Brock is $8,600 for a townhouse, and it works out to $23.88 per day per student. So I'm looking at a new funding model that I would propose that BU, Brock University Student Union, needs to come to the plate as Brock University does. I believe that they will be using the facility the most, and they're already paying through the student union for the facilities that they're currently building at Brock. At $20 per year per student at 18,000 students would make $360,000 per year. Over 5 years would be 1.8 million, plus the 500,000 that they already contributed, plus 1 million that will associate for the actual cost of the rooms for what the actual students are paying. And let's treat the athletes just as fair as we do the student, as I'd mentioned. It would equate to a total sum of 3.3 million. The city of Thorold would contribute 2 million plus 1.6 million on top of it, because 2 million for our infrastructure costs. Seeing that Brock University is using their student residency leasing for the athletes as a down payment, why can't we as a city use the $2 million that we're investing in infrastructure as a down payment? At the end of the day, when we look at what everybody is contributing so far, it works out to $10.6 million. If the city of St. Catharines contributed $3.6 million, the city of Thorold $3.6 million, $2 million infrastructure cost, $1.6 million upfront in cash, $20 a student over 5 years would be $3.3 million. There's our $10.5 million. That, to me, is equal partnership, not the funding model that they have now. For as the citizens of Thorold are paying $388 per resident, the city of St. Catharines is paying $23.84, and a Brock student's paying $27.77. So to me, I have nothing against the project. It's the funding. This is a dream that I had about Leisureplex 15 years ago at Brock, with the city of St. Catharines, with the city of Thorold. And we're going to do a partnership, and at the end of the day, it failed. So at the end of the day, I have nothing against the project. I think we need to renegotiate the funding model, and let's make it fair for everybody. For at the end of the day, I'm the individual who has the answer, none of yous. I'm here as an elected official. If I wish to run again, I need to be responsible to the constituents I represent, not to Brock University students, not to the city of St. Catharines students. I need to be responsible to taxpayers and citizens of Thorold. So I agree in principle to the project. It's great, but the funding model sucks. Thank you very much.
Director of Community Services and Manager, you want to give them the breakdown on the funding and how that was reached, and maybe Manoj, you want to, on the split and...
Mr. Mayor, we had a 2-hour meeting.
No.
It was negotiating behind staff.
I don't know.
I know how the model was set, but to continue this, we'll be here all night. It'll be a filibuster.
We'll be here all day if we have to be. That's right.
Mr. Mayor, the report's written from the perspective that we know that we're going to have to do something with the James White Arena in the next short little while. So we've got information that says in the next 5 years we have to spend up to about $6 million just to keep the doors open. After which, we're looking at an investment of somewhere in the neighborhood of $13 to $18 million to replace that piece of infrastructure. What's in front of us here is an opportunity for a $5 million investment, $2 million of that which comes from development charges, people that are moving into this community. What we're looking at is funding $3 million from various sources, including taxes. So I understand Councillor Henley's concern about the equity of it, and that's something that probably needs a little bit more work. But from the perspective of our opportunity cost, I think what's in front of you here today represents the best investment to get us through the next 5 years.
You want to speak? Anyone else? Councillor Henley.
I couldn't bring it up quick enough, but I wish I could have. Mayor Walter Susnick from the city of St. Catharines said this was a great investment in the city of St. Catharines. Why? It was in the millions of dollars that it would cost them to refurbish the four-pad that they have built and the old Rexheimers next to the Jack Clafe Arena. I don't got the time to download it, but that's the situation the city of St. Catharines is in also. So no wonder they're jumping at this opportunity, because we're going to be the ones paying the fair share, the high share. I'll get you the article. I read it. I actually read it today. The city of St. Catharines is more than welcome to get partnership, and Walter Zegnet, the mayor, mentioned specifically the amount of monies they would have to invest in their arena structures within the city of St. Catharines, so this was a no-brainer. Of course, because we're paying the biggest share. I could find you the article and I'll send it to you, and nothing against Mr. Holman. You know, I've gone back to the years when this started in 2017 and read every article, and that was one of the articles that I read, the St. Catharines commitment to arenas.
Councillor Kenny.
I'd just like to say I agree with signing up for this. All we're doing is committing right now. The big work is going to be with Curtis and our mayor negotiating for us to make sure that we get one arena for us. As you heard from Jeff, we're losing an arena in 2 or 3 years. Our children, grandchildren, old-timers, that anybody that wants to play hockey down the road, we need another arena. We're going to get for $5 million, just don't think of what's being built in Thorold. In the Niagara region, $100 million. We got baseball fields in Thorold. There's, the rowing center is going to be second to none. They're going to bring the world championships back to St. Catharines. It's just not Thorold itself. Okay, so it's $5 million in Thorold, but the Niagara region, right to Fort Erie, everybody's getting something. I always hear people say, look at Kitchener, look at London, look at Windsor, all the stuff they have. What do we got? We got nothing. Here's an opportunity for us to buy in, get something built. 5 years from now, you saw the pictures. I say the naysayers right now, 5 years from now, are going to look at that place and say, what a good move.
Councillor Doros.
I won't rehash what Councillor Henley said, but I agree with Councillor Henley. I think it's too much of an onus on taxpayers of Thorold for the small amount of people that are going to be using this facility.
No. It's not your turn. Right?
I don't know.
Okay, Councillor Sen.
Sorry. You pointed this way.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you. I understand the funding thought. I'm a guy who's at the end of my hockey career with my kids. They only have 3 years left. So I'm not talking as a, I want the arena, but I don't mind if we tweak the funding a little bit, but I agree with Councillor Kenny on this. I campaigned on this 8 years ago to get something in Thorold where you can just go for a walk in the, in the middle of January, or you can play hockey and have your ice time. Now we got lacrosse, we have everything else. I think this is going to be spectacular. I'm not opposed to looking at the funding a little closer and tweaking a little bit, but this facility is going, and if we do it right, at the $3 million with different avenues that we have, and I won't speak to them here, there might not be any impact on, or very little on the taxpayers of the city of Thorold, and they're going to have this up there, and all the people here for the legacy of the kids who are going to be playing hockey from now on. I think this is a really good deal with maybe some tweaking from the city of St. Catharines. Respectful. Thank you.
Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was just hoping, through you, Mr. Mayor, to the appropriate staff member, if you could just enlighten the group again on, from what I understood from our previous meetings, was that there was a benefit also to the city with infrastructure being brought to that area for potential employment land in the future. Did I understand that correctly?
Mr. Mayor, the work that needs to be done to expand the services to accommodate this project will also benefit the Brock Business Park. So when that development charge bylaw was put together a couple of years ago, and I think it's renewed in 2 more years, it had identified that there was a need to upgrade the infrastructure to accommodate new development in the Brock Business Park. And all we're doing is moving that project forward using those funds that we'll collect from development in this area. It's part of the game plan. It's just happening sooner for us.
And sorry, one more question, Mr. Mayor, I'm not against this project by any means, actually. I think it's great, and I do see it as a savings for us and more use for our arena that's not in very good repair for us to use it then for ball hockey and other areas of potential revenue as well. But I'm just wondering, since we were going over all these, the new bylaw, is this the appropriate use of that land that's there?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So the property is actually currently owned by Brock, so I don't believe there's any zoning concerns.
Councillor Decker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to say I think this is a great opportunity for our city. Not only are we getting a new hockey arena, which would be great, but we're getting a walking track that all the residents of Thorold can use. Whether you're a youth or a senior, it's a facility that could be used for everybody. We're getting outdoor volleyball courts, that we have a rec facility in Thorold that's busting at the seams, that has such a cry to get an outdoor volleyball league going. So it's a facility that could be used for everyone. I agree perhaps that the numbers could be a little off, but to say that not a lot of people are going to use this facility, I totally disagree. This facility could be used, everyone in the city can use it, not only our city, but maybe our surrounding city. So it offers cycling, it offers outdoor volleyball, it offers hockey, it offers lacrosse. So you can't just strictly focus on hockey. There's other aspects of this facility that it'll offer a wide variety of leisure and sports for everyone. So you can't just focus on the one. It's a facility that is going to have a lot of opportunity for everybody and for everyone to use.
Councillor Long.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First, I'll start with a few questions to staff, and then I'll make a comment. I'm just wondering if staff has any indication what the annual life cycle or capital renewal replacement would be on an $80 million facility. How much would that cost the city of Thorold if we were a 1/3 owner per year?
Mr. Mayor, we're just currently going through that information now, and the report from PwC that we received just before the weekend was discussed this morning. They're going to tweak some of those numbers, and it will have that information when we come back to you with the operating agreement.
Okay. So I just wanted to ask that question because although it looks like we're going to have a $7 million contribution to the facility, there are ongoing costs, which I think we need to be aware of. And Mr. Hamilton said it quite a few times. I picked it up. The $7 million is just part of the issue here. Our bigger issue is the ongoing operational cost, the operating model, the operating agreement, and our capital renewal costs. That could cost the city a substantial amount in the future. Being a city of 18,000 people versus another partner who has 140,000, it's quite a difference in how it affects the taxpayer. So I just wanted to make that point. I do have a question to staff also in terms of development charges. Obviously, this is being built by the Canada Summer Games Committee. Would development charges be applicable, and would the city be collecting development charges? Because that would help us offset some of our $7 million contribution. Does anybody have an answer for that?
Mr. Mayor, in the new development charge bylaw that we've just recently passed, there was an allocation of, I believe it was somewhere around $4 million for recreational facilities included in that cost. We're allocating half of that amount towards this project.
No, I understand that, but is the project paying development charges?
The owners are Brock, and they mentioned again this morning that they're exempt from paying development charges.
And again, that goes back to a question of who is actually the owner. The owner is Canada Summer Games. So I don't want to get into a debate on that, but the owner is not Brock University at the end of the day. The owner would be a consortium, and it's being built by Canada Summer Games. So I think that needs to be looked at, because if we're going to do in lieu of payments, that would be an in lieu charge of probably in excess of $1 million. That would be my thought, but I just wanted to throw that out there. So my final comments on this report here, I'll start off by saying that I want the project to be built. Some of you may know my daughter is a world athlete for Special Olympics. She's traveled all around the world, and we've gone with her, and I've seen what sport does for communities, for our young. It helps everybody. There's no denying that. And this facility will do that for the city of Thorold and all of Niagara, because this is a Niagara facility. But that being said, I have to look at this from, I have to put my other hat on. I have to take my dad hat off and the sports guy hat off and look at it from the city of Thorold perspective. And I think we have a poorly negotiated agreement on capital allocation here. Is there anything we can do about it? Possibly not. But what we need to do is make sure, if we do pass this, that one of the items here is that we agree to an operating model, and that is paramount, because $7 million could be a drop in the bucket over 40 years, because capital renewal on an $80 million facility is huge. It's huge. We'll spend more in deficits in capital renewal than we'll ever spend on capital for the project. So what I would like, if council would allow me to, I would like to amend item 2C that says an operating model and partnership agreement for the new facility be prepared for consideration and approval by the city of Thorold. And I would like to add that a member of Thorold City Council is on that committee to be there for the negotiations, so that in 6 weeks when it comes back, we're not blindsided with a report that's asking us to do something with $7 million with no notice. And that's what's happened here. We have not done a strategic plan in the city. We're working on a Parks and Rec master plan. It's not complete. And yet, we're making a decision, the biggest capital infrastructure decision in the city of Thorold, on a 2-page report. I can't believe it. I really can't believe it. I have no idea if we need ice time. I have no idea how much ice time we need. I'm contributing to a facility that has much more than the city of Thorold ever needs. I asked my wife if she needs a wrestling gymnasium. She told me no. She doesn't need an outdoor running track. We went to purchase a minivan, and we came home with a Lamborghini. And that's what we're getting here. We bought a Lamborghini, and now we got expensive oil changes. So I just want council to be aware that if you think you're deciding on $7 million, which may not be that big a deal, because we're going to use development charges, and we're only going to go to the taxpayer for $3 million, and we're getting a great deal. Yeah, we are getting a great deal at the end of the day, but we have to be careful where this goes in the long run, because this could cost us substantially. Maybe double-digit tax increases to fund a facility that maybe not a lot of people will use. So, Mr. Mayor, those are my comments. Thank you.
So you want, did you have a motion that you want to put on the floor? That
Yes, I do. I'd like to have a member of Thorold City Council on that negotiating team for the operational aspect of this.
So that's added to number C. Is there a seconder? All right, I got Councilor Decker. Is there any discussion on that amendment? Okay, all in favor of the amendment? Opposed? Carried. So what we'll do now is we'll continue, go ahead, Councilor Henley.
As I mentioned earlier, Mr. Mayor, in regards to the arenas, just so to put this on a note, where it was mentioned that what it's going to cost the city of Thorold in regards to their arenas, Mayor Walter Zedzik, the implementation options in the city's draft arena strategy hinges upon participation in the proposed Canada Summer Games Sports and Ability Center, with an estimated $15.8 million in long-term capital requirements for the city's existing arenas for various renewal activities. The Summer Games facility is an option to meet the community's needs. That's my point. Of course it is, because we're funding more than they are, so that's why we're going to, and again, I'm not against the games. I'm not against the facility. I'm against the funding model. Let's make it fair for everybody, and that's what's not happening today. The city of St. Catharines is hopping on the bandwagon because they're getting a great deal. $16.8 million for $3.1 million. We are investing $7 million for what we may be spending $6 million on the old arena. So that's where my equations come in. I'm just trying not to be the devil's advocate, but everybody can't be on side all the time. Someone's got to do a little bit of the dirty work and dig in to see what is going on and elsewhere, and that's all I'm doing. I'm just making myself
Councillor Ham.
aware of what's going on.
So I've got a couple of comments. First, I got a letter from Councillor Neal, who's on vacation, couldn't be here. To Mayor and Council, my thoughts on the proposal are as follows. The long-term benefits to our community and entire region will more than offset our contribution of $5 million for the Canada Games complex, as well as $2 million for services. Future generations will use these facilities with a positive impact to our community. Councillor Henley, please. New and existing businesses will come in and expand. Thorold is becoming the hub of the region, and therefore this complex will be more important as time goes on. The cost will be offset by development charges, selling land where the old arena is located, or partnering with a developer to put something else in place of the old arena, such as a new library on the ground floor with condos above, selling the present library property to offset the cost of the Canada Games development. Part of the $17 million could also be used to offset costs. The old James White Arena needs major repairs, with preliminary costs to be at least $6 million for an old building. We need to look at future generations using these facilities.
Point of order, Mr. Mayor. Is this normal procedure to read a councillor who's absent reading his thoughts? I don't think it's normal, because if we did that, then every time we had a meeting and somebody wasn't here, we'd be doing meetings by letters.
No, he's not allowed to vote, but he's allowed to make his
He could put it in
interest
council
known.
correspondence, Mr. Mayor. This is
Well,
a
he asked
point
me to
of
read.
order.
I agree with Council on this, Mayor. I've been here for 16 years, and I'm telling you.
Well, I've heard this before.
Council correspondence should have been under email, and we could have read it on our agenda, not you making a presentation here today. You can call me on order, whatever. I've been here for 16, 17 years.
So you're making a point of order, you want to vote whether this is okay or not?
Well, we can do that if you want, but
Well, I don't mind, but you know what, I think,
Because someone's on vacation, then we're gonna send in a letter.
no, he asked me to read this, so I'm reading it, okay?
He should know then as a council that it should be in council agenda. Hate to say it, not to be out of order. But let's, if we're gonna run it as a mayor, then we need to run it the right way, Mr. Mayor.
Well, that's,
There's a quorum here.
listen, I'll bring it to the floor. Is everybody okay? There's a vote to whether I can finish reading this letter or not.
Put in a policy, Mr. Mayor.
Well, I'm telling you, that's what we're voting on. All those in favor of me finishing reading the letter, vote yes or no. All in favor? Opposed? Carry. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4. Wait, one, raise your hands again, please. All those in favor of me finishing reading the letter? 1, 2, 3. Opposed? Okay, it's lost. I won't read it. Now I'll read my remarks. The information here to... What? No. No, I'm gonna read my remarks now. I'm gonna read my remarks now, Councillor Hanley. Okay? the cost, this issue, you have to understand where this started. The staff worked diligently on this. The funding model that came about was in collaboration with our staff working with the other groups. And that's where that funding model came from. It wasn't a pie-in-the-sky funding model. Contrary to what people may agree or disagree, St. Catharines is putting $10 million in, and Brock University is putting in $4 million, part of that soft cost, but the price of the land is worth something. If the Canada Games had to go out and buy that property, it's worth something. There's a hard dollar value on that. The cost to renovate the White Arena in the report, as you can see, is $6.1 million, and then we still have an old arena. The cost to replace the White Arena would be in the neighborhood of $15 million. And we still only have another arena. Okay? Being involved in this is more than an arena, and I don't want people to think it's just an arena, because it's a lot more than the arena, and it's providing facilities across the board, not just for hockey players. It's providing facilities right from seniors on down to youth and to kids, with the looking at what's going on as far as the outdoor facilities. There's the people move into communities because they want amenities. And I'll tell you something, that's something where we have an opportunity to really step up to the plate. And if you look at what business opportunities are, it's going to help, probably most importantly, for businesses like the 4 Point Sheraton, who's been struggling along. The economic impact to not only all of Niagara, but the city of Thorold. And if you look at this from those perspectives, to me, this is money well spent. Yes, I agree. And it's right in the report that the other areas have to be dealt with. The other levels of funding have to be in place. The operational agreement has to be reached. So we're not voting on that tonight. And I can tell you something. In the early 70s, when I was playing hockey in Thorold, and then I started coaching, our forefathers took the step of building the Doherty Arena, which at the time was the premier facility in all of Niagara. Think about that. And from that point forward to today, we've done nothing other than spend $3 million to renovate that arena. We used to have the best ball diamonds in Niagara, second to none. And we've let things deteriorate. We have a chance now to turn the corner and move Thorold into the next generation where it belongs. Because you've seen Port Colborne, you've seen what Pelham's done, you've seen what Fort Erie's done. And we owe it to our community to step up to the plate. So that's all I have to say on that. And we have a report before us with the amendment that's been passed. And I'd like to take a recorded vote and call the vote, unless we have another speaker. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just have one more question. What if we don't like the negotiation of the operation cost? Can we back out of it at this point?
That's correct. That's
Okay.
why that's in the agreement.
And then my second comment is I was kind of shocked by the answer to the question that Councillor Longo had with regards to Brock being exempt from DC charges, and I do agree that if they donate the land, it's no longer their land to be exempt from paying development charges to Thorold. So is that part of the negotiation for the operation cost, or what?
That will be addressed, but it is still their land because it's a long-term lease that, okay?
I see. Okay, thank you.
Go ahead, Councillor DeRose.
Just one last comment on this. And this is something I got from taxpayers. They said this is the largest expenditure that City Council has been asked to approve in the history of Thorold. I want the shiny new Cadillac too, but not at any expense and not on the backs of taxpayers. Mr. Henley, Councillor Henley, stated about a $300-400 increase. I just wanted to ask a question to the Director of Finance. Has there been any homework done on whether, how much this will affect taxpayers at all? Just a rough ballpark figure. 'Cause
Through you, Mr. Mayor, at this point, really all you're looking at is the capital contribution. There's a cost of about $192,000 if it's debt serviced, and that's about a point and a half. Beyond that, we really don't know what the operating impact will be, whether there will be an impact to the taxpayers if it is a deficit or a surplus.
Okay. I'd also like to nominate Councillor Longo to be on that committee.
Well, we're not doing that now.
Oh, okay.
Okay?
Sorry. Thank you.
Okay, we have a report in front of us. I'm going to ask for a recorded vote. And I'll have you read that again. You want to read what we're voting on so they know, the resolution?
Okay, do you want me to read the whole?
No, just the resolution.
Change.
Yeah.
So that an operating model and partnership agreement for the new facility be prepared for the consideration and approval by Thorold City Council, and that a City of Thorold councillor be added to this negotiating committee as well. So that is the only change that we did on this report.
We voted on that. So now the resolution is 3 parts that are there with the amendment on Part C. Okay? We're going to have a recorded vote. We'll start the recorded vote.
Okay, Councillor Decker?
For it?
Yes
Or
or no?
against it?
For
For
or
it is you agree with that, and one, A, B, C.
Yeah, I'm for that, I agree.
Councillor
I agree.
Sentence?
For it.
No.
Mayor Yulin?
I agree. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. Okay, thank you very much. We'll move on to.
I nominate Councillor Longo.
We have a motion on the floor to let Councilor Longo sit as part of the council up on that. Part C.
Can I make a nomination? Can I make a nomination as well? I'd like to nominate Councillor Kenny.
By Councillor Longo voting against it, does he not withdraw his name from being one of the people that are going to go to the meetings? He doesn't even want it to come to Thorold. I'm just putting a point out there.
Mr. Mayor, I think it was quite clear in my comments that I want this facility built in the city of Thorold. I said it a few times. I'm all for sport. I want the facility. I don't agree with our capital contribution. That's why I voted against it. But I believe we need a strong voice at the table to make sure that the operating agreement is something that the taxpayers of Thorold can live with. Because this is huge. This is massive.
Sure.
We just bought a 1/3 stake in an $80 million condominium.
We didn't buy anything yet, Councilor Longo, okay? And we don't even know if it's a 1/3 or 1/4 because they're still working on all
Well,
those
it's still
things.
pretty expensive at $20 million.
So to make those comments are
I'm
premature.
just defending myself because the councilor
Yeah, I know.
said against the project. I'm not against the project.
Okay. Go ahead, Councilor Longo.
I beg to differ. We had a recorded vote, and you voted against it. It's easy to say after the fact to the taxpayers, well, I really wanted it, but I voted against it. You're either for it or against it. You voted against it.
Mr. Mayor, I'll say it again, okay? I explained myself. I want the facility built, but I believe we're overpaying on the capital portion. And that's why I voted against it. So now everybody knows why I voted against it, which is perfectly fine. I'm for the facility. Let's get it built. Let's figure it out. But I'm not going to give away $7 million if I don't think it's right. I've learned my lesson on council to speak up when I don't agree with things. And I'm not just going to be a yes man. So I agree with it. But what I'm saying is we need a strong voice to make sure we have a good agreement, an operating agreement.
Okay, so everybody's got a ballot? Does anyone else want to speak? Okay, so we're voting on our representative on the committee. You can vote for Councillor Kenny or Councillor Longo. Write the one name on the ballot, please. Okay. Yeah. We'll move on to the presentation and then we'll come back to that. I'd like to call to the podium Terry Lee McLean, resident, read Director of Public Works and Community Services Report, PWCS 2019-38. Welcome, Terry Lee.
Hi, Mr. Mayor. I'm not good at public speaking, so please bear with me. We have residents of our circle on Bolton Avenue have petitioned for removal of a very large, dirty, and unhealthy poplar tree. My first question to council or any of the bylaw officer, if there's one here, is how far up from the curb is city property, which I do believe it's 10 feet. I don't know if St. Catharines is. I don't know if Thorold is or not. The tree does sit on, if it is 10 feet, sit on city property. We, the residents are requesting that the city remove the tree or at least help with the cost of removing the tree. I have submitted a health report. The mother of the child in the report is here with me. He is very severely allergic to the tree. It is the only tree that I know of for several kilometers, so it is a big problem. Again, we are requesting the removal of the tree.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you. You mentioned it's unhealthy, the tree? It's an unhealthy tree?
It's unhealthy to the residents.
To the residents,
Not
okay.
that the tree is
itself
diseased, it is an unhealthy tree to the residents.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Any other questions to the presenter? I thank you for your presentations, Terry Lee, and then I'll bring forward, can I have a motion to bring forward PWCS 2019-38? Councillor Henley? Okay, so I'll call on the Director of Public Works and Community Services. Jeff?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Recommendation is that the request to remove and replace the city tree at 65 Bolton Avenue be approved at the homeowner's expense in accordance with the municipal tree policy 900-02.
Do you have any questions? Any comments?
May I have a comment?
You're done your comments because you already spoke on the presentation. This is now for council to make a decision. Okay?
Through you,
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, do we know what the cost is to remove this tree?
It's in the report.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, it's approximately $2,500 all in.
No.
Counselor Wilson.
Thank you,
Did-
Mr. Mayor. Is the tree on city property or on the residence property?
Are you asking me?
No.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the tree is on city property.
Sorry. So I'm just wondering what kind of precedent we'd be setting if we then removed a healthy tree. I don't want to discount your son's allergy to it. But if we then voted against the reporter staff's recommendation, would we not be setting a precedent that we remove trees when people don't like them or are allergic?
Any other questions or speakers? Counselor Longo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the appropriate staff member. Have we done this in the past? Have we ever had a tree request to come down and had a resident willing to pay for it?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, in the year and a half that I've been here, not that I'm aware of, no.
And what's the issue? Is the issue they don't want to pay for this, or they want the city to pay for this? Is that what our issue is?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I believe, yes, that is the situation here, is the trees on city property.
Okay, but we do have a strict policy that if it's healthy, we will allow it to come down, but it's up to the homeowner to pay for it.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that is correct. Take it down and replace it.
Yeah, it's not only cut it down, Counselor Longo, it's also to replace the tree.
And the homeowner's going to pay for the full expense.
I went by your house. I saw the tree. It's a healthy tree. The cost, $2,500, is very high, and I hate to. I'm going to support staff on this for the further.
I do have an estimate for 1,600. I went ahead and had 4 estimates done.
My problem with it is that there's probably a couple hundred of these trees around the city, and if we do it once, then we're going to have a problem down the road with other people coming and asking us.
Okay, any further questions? On the recommendation, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Council voted that the
Okay, so if I do take it down, I'm not going to be fined in any way down the road?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that is correct. So the permission has been granted to remove the tree. We can also provide you a copy of the policy which states the size of the tree that it must be replaced with, as well as a preferred specimen.
my recommendation would be to deal with our manager.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Okay. Yeah.
So a vote was 5-3, and the counselor on the negotiating committee is Counselor Kenny.
Okay. And I need a motion to move reports on consent. I have a motion to move the reports. Oh, wait, excuse me. Number 4, call. I first have to call for reports to be brought forward from consent. Are there any reports to be brought forward from consent? I have one, and it's the letter from Niagara Lake. and it is CC 2019-38, Niagara Lake Council Resolution Opposition to Bill 108. I'd like to have staff bring that forward at our next meeting as a resolution to support that. Okay? And that is the change to leave LPAC, it's so that we stay the way that it is now and not change to the new model that this bill recommends. So we'll ask that come forward as a resolution next council meeting. Okay? So I have that as a motion. Can I get a seconder, Councillor Henley? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay? So so now we can, is there any other motions to be brought forward? Seeing none, motion to move reports on consent. Can I have a mover? Councillor Wilson. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Discussion reports. DF 2019-12. Tax rates and due dates 2019. Our Director of Finance, Maria Morrow.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The recommendations: that council receive the report for information purposes, that the final normal installment dates for the residential, farmland, managed forest, and pipeline classes be established as June 28th and August 30th, that the normal final first installment date for the commercial, industrial, and multi-residential classes be delayed pending finalization of Bill 140 calculations by Opta. Fourthly, that the following bylaws be prepared and submitted to council to fix the rates of taxation for 2019 and to provide for the levying and collection of taxes. Secondly, to establish budget estimates. That an advertisement be placed in Niagara this week and on the city's website advising of tax installment due dates. And I just want to highlight that the average impact is 1.5% increase to the bottom line overall tax bill for the average residential property. That increased by the average amount.
So that was better than we anticipated. Awesome. Tremendous. Can I get a mover for that report? Councillor Sentence, speakers to the report. Seeing none, I call a question. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. PWCS 2019-31 Segway Tour Proposal, Thorold BIA, and the Director of Public Works and Community Services, Jeff Holman, please.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. The recommendations are that council authorize staff to prepare a bylaw permitting the use of segways on the Welland Canal Trail only. 2, that staff be directed to investigate best practices and incorporate the necessary design standards and policies for consideration in council's review of the Transportation Master Plan and Parks and Recreation Master Plan. 3, that the Thorold Business Improvement Area be advised of council's decision on this matter.
Can I get a mover for the report? Councillor Longo, speakers to the report.
So move the report.
Any speakers to the report? Go ahead, Councillor Longo.
Just a quick question. Just want to make sure I understand this. We are allowing this company to use segways on the canal path at this point?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, that's the case, but we'll have to work out some type of license arrangement, insurance, and all those other issues that are important to protect.
That was my concern. I just want to make sure that we're covered liability-wise with whether it's our insurance, their insurance.
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, I call the question. All those in favor of the report? Opposed? Carried. PWCS 2019-32, Niagara Falls Road, illegal dumping. Again, Jeff?
Recommendation is that the proposed action plan to address illegal dumping on Niagara Falls Road
Can I get a mover for the report? Councillor Henley. Speakers to the report. Go ahead, Councillor Henley.
I appreciate that we're putting up signs, but for a long time we've been saying, the technology is there today that we can catch these guys. And I look at, in the future, I will be asking for a report for security. It's a simple investment. You know, I could go and show you, and in all honesty, I could tell you right now, I can buy something for $185. I can stick it on a tree, it'll record for 7 days. And I can control it by remote control. We need to be looking at something like that. We can catch these people who are dumping it. The region's never done. I can never understand why. In all the years and the technology that's available today, how come we're not putting anything or implementing anything to cities or the regions to catch these people? It's continuously the same places over and over and over. And the technology is there today that we can catch these culprits, but no one's taken the initiative.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think there's legal implications to us videotaping on public land, but I know at the region they do have a system, at least I was informed of that before, where they actually have people that inspect the garbage that's dumped to see if there's something in there with their name on it, and then we can catch them that way. So I don't know if there's something, through you, Mr. Mayor, to the appropriate staff member, if there's something that we can do to either get the region to help us with doing that, if they have staff that are skilled in digging through garbage and figuring that out, or if that's something that we want to do.
The report is talks about the Resolute Forest Products, Hydro, and the region, and what their help to work on this. The region does that as well. The region uses Crime Stoppers and other various avenues, and there's a hotline number you can call. And I think that this is a good report, and I think it shows, it was Councillor Sentence that brought this forward the first time, and I think it's a proactive approach, and I think it's a good step to see moving forward how we make out. Councillor DeRose.
I just wanted to answer Councillor Wilson's comment. I had an issue where I witnessed someone actually littering on my property. All they did was give them a warning. They wouldn't do anything unless I had it on film from my own property. It was in front of my property. But just to let you know, they will go give a warning, but they won't even, they talk to their lawyers and they can't even use an eyewitness, really. So it's kind of difficult to catch them unless you do use a camera.
Okay, any other speakers? I'll call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. PWCS 2019-35 Municipal Operations Center Renovation Project and Corporate Administrative Space Plan. Again, I'll call on Director of Community Services and Public Works, Jeff Holman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The recommendation is that council approve the following expenditures for the Municipal Operations Center and Corporate Administration Space Plan. One, that SEMA Plus be engaged to complete a City Hall efficiencies design at a cost of $56,000. It was included in the 2019 budget with the intent that these works will start construction later this summer and be completed before the end of the year. Two, that SEMA Plus be engaged to prepare the engineering design and construction cost update at a cost of $294,000. It was included in the 2019 budget for the Municipal Operations Center for Council's consideration in the 2020 capital budget. And three, that plans to renovate the third floor at 8 Carlton Street, the senior center, be deferred at this time, but included in Council's consideration in the 10-year capital forecast. Four, that the mayor and clerk be authorized to sign the amended engineering agreement for the project.
Can I get a mover for the report? Councillor Sentence. Speakers to the report. Go ahead, Councillor Hand.
Long overdue. I'm glad to see the report come forward. You know, we tackled with this the last term of council, you know, and I'm great to see that Jeff, and I know the work that's gone into it and everything, so we can finally move something that's important to the city and the infrastructure needs in our operating facilities.
Thank you, Councillor Hanley. Any other speakers? Seeing none, I call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay. We've done E. We move on to, right?
37.
Yep. PWCS 2019-37, purchase of 3 vehicles. Again, I call on Jeff. Busy night, Jeff. Can I get a mover for the report? Counselor Wilson, speakers to the report. Seeing none, I call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. We've done the next one, which was Bolton Avenue. We're on to PWCS 2019-39. Again, Kubota purchase. Jeff, you're up again. That's your last one. Can I get a mover for the report? Councillor Decker, speakers to the report. Councillor DeRose.
Jeff, just a quick question, because I did the same thing. I bought something at Berg's, and then I regretted it because Pix is, I think, is Pix on Thorold property? But going forward, is it something you was shopped around, and you got the best price, basically?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, it was posted on our website as well as put out as a tender, so.
Thank you.
It was put out.
Okay, any further questions? Can I get a mover? Did I get a mover? I don't think, hey? Oh, yeah, I got Councillor Decker, I did, yes. Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. PDS 2019-03, residential licensing bylaw enforcement, and Chief Building Official Jason Simpson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The recommendations are that council receive this report for approval as presented. 2, that council direct staff to adopt an administrative monetary penalty system for bylaw 109-2017, the residential rental licensing bylaw. And 3, that council direct staff to conduct a feasibility study for all municipal bylaws for transition to the administrative monetary penalty system.
Can I get a mover for the report? Councillor Henley, speakers to the report. Councillor Longo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the appropriate staff member. Can I get some clarification on item number 2? Does this mean you're going to come back with a monetary penalty for people who do not comply with getting a license?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that is correct. We would come up with various types of infractions to the bylaw and have a set fine for each one of those different types of infractions, one being operating a rental property without the rental license.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any further questions? Seeing none, I call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. CC 2019-35, investing in Canada infrastructure, rural and northern stream. And I'll turn this over to our Deputy Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Joanne.
The recommendation is that staff submit a grant application under the Investing in Canada Infrastructure, Rural and Northern Stream for consideration of the following projects. The 3 projects will be submitted as one grant. The projects are Front Street Sewer and Water Main Replacement and Road Reconstruction, Albert Street West Resurfacing, and Sullivan Avenue Resurfacing. This includes the report.
Can I get a mover for the report? Councillor Wilson. Speakers to the report. Go ahead, Councillor Longo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the Deputy Clerk. It says that the application needed to be submitted by May 14, 2019. Is that correct?
That's correct, and it was submitted.
It was
Yeah.
submitted. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any further questions? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. CC 2019-37, Town and Gown Association of Ontario Annual Conference. Again, Deputy City Clerk, Joanne.
I just want to say that this was not my report, so I don't have very much information on this. But the recommendation is that council approve the registration for 2 individuals to attend the Town and Gown Association of Ontario Conference to a maximum amount of $900, excluding HST.
Can I get a mover for the report? Councillor Henley. Speakers? Go ahead, Councillor Kenny.
Yes, I am on this committee, this Town and Gown. My one question would be, the 2 tickets are $450 each. When we were at our meeting, we discussed, we want to make sure they're interchangeable between the conferences from the 3rd to the 6th. So I know we had some members saying I could go on the 3rd, others on the 4th or the 5th. So I'll support this, but I'd like to find that out if we can.
I can get, we'll have to ask.
Are you asking if, let's say, I want to go to the conference, I have a ticket one day, and then if you want to go to the conference the next day, you use my same ticket? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
Yes, we talked about it at our committee meeting itself.
I think you can, but we'll get clarification, okay, Councillor Kenny?
Thank
Because
you.
I don't want to, say something and maybe I'm wrong. Go ahead, Councillor Longo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the Director of Finance, were you going to use $900 from the community grant budget? And I believe we already spent $1,500 there earlier tonight. Do we have enough money?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I don't know.
I can answer that because that's, I know how that come about. So that, yes, the money's there. And
Even
that-
with the $1,500 we
Yes.
committed to TATAC?
Yeah. And the reason is, again, for this conference, which has been hosted, and we're a partner, it's at Brock, is that the committee, the Town and Gown Committee, never put a budget in, okay? We've never put a budget in, but we've never hosted the Town and Gown Conference during that period before. So that's why we never put a budget in, and then this come out, and that was an area that they could do it without going in a budget overrun. Okay? Okay? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. And FES 2019-04, St. Lawrence Seaway Confined Space Rescue, and Fire Chief Terry Dixon, you're up.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a recommendation that council write off the outstanding invoice from November 6, 2015 to the St. Lawrence Seaway Management Corporation in the amount of $9,497.66 as uncollectible. That council accept the donation from the St. Lawrence Seaway Management Corporation of new water rescue equipment in the amount equivalent to the write-off.
Can I get a mover for the report? Councillor Senton, speakers to the report. Go ahead, Councillor Hanley.
I know I was critical about this was paying it because of a situation we have with another individual, but I'm glad to see that this time around they're looking at donating us some water rescue equipment that I know the city would most diligently need and that stuff, so I'll accept it that we go along with what the chief wants.
Thank you, Councillor Hanley. I got Councillor Longo and then Councillor Thorold.
Chief, I wanted to address you for the first time as chief, so I have to make up a question. Are you happy with the negotiated settlement here?
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, I am. How that came about was kind of interesting because obviously we had a letter from their lawyer saying they weren't going to pay the fines anymore or at all. Since 2015, we've been trying to get some money out of the Seaway, and as Director of Finance would say, you're never going to get money from the federal government. So they approached me about it. So in community office, like the report says, and he says, how about a donation amount of the sum? And really the technical bill that we're trying to recover is the cost from St. Catharines. So they're gonna give us money for the whole bill. So
Seems like a good compromise. Thanks, Chief.
Councillor DeRose, did you have anything? You're good? Okay. Any more? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. And we'll adjourn back into regular council. Motion to ratify recommendations from General Committee. Councillor Kenny.
By myself, seconded by Council Decker, that council adopt the items approved by general meeting.
Any speakers to that? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Bylaws. First reading of bylaws. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor DeRose, that leave be given to introduce the following bylaws. Bylaw 63-2019, being a bylaw to meet the various requirements of emergency management.
Councillor Wilson, just have to read the numbers.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. Bylaw 67-2019, bylaw 68-2019, bylaw 69-2019, bylaw 70-2019, and that the same be read a first time.
All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Final reading of bylaws.
Moved by myself, Councillor Wilson, seconded by Councillor Sentence, that the bylaws just read a first time be read a second time and third time, and do pass, and that the mayor and clerk do sign and seal the same, and rule that this council to the contrary notwithstanding.
All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Council committee and board meeting minutes. Minutes to review for information purposes. Councillor Sentence.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Longo. The council receive and file the minutes of the committees of council and local boards as presented.
All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Minutes to endorse recommendations. Councillor Longo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Kenny, that council adopt the recommendations contained within the city clerk's memo of May 9th, 2019.
All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. And before we do adjournment, you know that prior to our next month's meeting, which will be Tuesday, what is it? June 4th, we'll be meeting on Monday after the public open house at 8:30. Is everybody aware of that?
We're ratifying that night.
That's correct. Okay, Councillor Morrow. I'm Councillor Morrow.
Oh, no,
Would you
thank
wanna
you.
be a
No,
councillor?
thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Director of Finance. Councillor Morrow, go
The
ahead.
public meeting starts at 6:30.
But it's slated from 6:30 to 8:30? So we can't meet until like 8:30. That's the way that it's scheduled.
Are we not passing the bylaw that evening as well?
That's correct.
So we have to wait until the public meeting is over at 8:30.
8:30.
I imagine the public meeting is going to take 10 minutes.
I'm just going by, that's the way it's published, and so we have to honor that. And so we can't actually convene and vote till 8:30, okay? And that's, because if somebody were to show up quarter to, you know what I mean, quarter to 8 or something, and then okay, so that's, okay, so on Monday, June 3rd, there's a public meeting from 6:30 to 8:30, correct? And we're convening at 8:30, okay? And then we have a regular council meeting the next night, because this is time sensitive for the DC's bylaw, correct? Anyone else? Okay, I have are you the adjournment guy? Councillor Decker.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Wilson, that this meeting is hereby adjourned at
All in favor? Opposed? Carried.